So some people joining, but let's start so we can honor your time. My name is Laura. I am speaking from Brazil, and in the ethic collaboration, I am playing two roles. One of the roles is mentoring our colleagues that are early and mid-career participants, and the other is helping our colleagues that are gathering information for each of the working groups to harmonize their efforts. But today I'm stepping in just to present to you some of the slides that we developed to update a little bit of how the collaboration has been going, what is our vision for steps to come, and how colleagues can and should enjoy and engage our future products. Here today, we also have our colleague Will Moy from the Secretariat. Will, not sure if you want to say hello.
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 That's great. And if you can access the chat and you want to introduce yourselves, you please feel free to share who are you, where you're coming from. It's always nice to see the interest of the community around this topic. So I'll quickly share some slides. I'll ask that anyone who enters can shut down the microphone just so we avoid the noise. And 1 second here. Yes. So hopefully now you can see the full screen. So as we mentioned in the invitation today is us trying to update for the larger community how the evidence synthesis infrastructure collaborative has been working, this vision for shaping the future of evidence synthesis, and of course, welcoming any questions, comments, and that you might have in the end of this presentation. As you well know, probably because you are here joining us today. Back in December, we had an open call for colleagues all over the world to nominate themselves to be part of one of the working groups that was launched. And course, to select people considering geographic diversity, languages, sectors that people are part of. So now we have more or less 170 colleagues representing different stakeholders in this field of evidence synthesis, use of technology, and exploration of intelligence artificial. But we hopefully always throughout the process created the sense that everyone is very much part of this collaboration, and the vision of everyone is very welcome in the reports that are being produced. So let's change the slide. The Evidence Synthesis Infrastructure Collaborative is funded right now by Wellcome and is supported by different groups. So the UN Global SDG Synthesis Coalition groups, the group that now encompasses Cochrane, Campbell, and JBI, that is called Building a Global Evidence Synthesis Community, is another of these groups. The Pan-African Collective for Evidence Space, one rapid groups. They are part of the Secretariat that, as I mentioned, collaborates with right now 5 working groups and some planning groups that we'll mention further in this presentation, and members from organizations all over the world and from different sectors as well. So I am not sure if Isabel is here yet.
Hi, I am
But
Laura.
Wellcome Trust Hi.
Can
Was
you
a
hear
big
me?
supporter. And Isabel, if you can share a little bit, yes, for sure. If you can share a little bit of the vision for this process, it would be lovely now.
Sure. Happy to do that. So for those who don't know me, I'm Isabel Fletcher. I lead
Not,
the.
yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
It's
Can I...
cutting a bit, but yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm seeing lots of thumbs. So I'm hoping you can all hear me, but just please let me know if I cut out. So for those who don't know me, I'm Isabel Fletcher. I lead the Evidence Synthesis Programme here at the Wellcome Trust in London. And for the past 2 years or so, I have been working on ESIC. And today, Laura's asked me to share a bit of the vision for ESIC that Wellcome has. And I appreciate that some of you may have already heard pieces of this, but I just think in a fast-moving process like this, it's really important to reiterate the context, zoom out a bit, and also just revisit the purpose of this work, given all of the detailed work that's been ongoing across the planning groups. So we set up ESIC at Wellcome really as a response to several challenges, but also a few opportunities that we had recognised in our own work. The first of which is that we were funding a number of field-specific evidence projects, some of which you might have heard of, such as the Galenos project in our mental health challenge area, and then also the Destiny and Solace AI projects in our climate and health work. And what we recognised was that the projects, they were generating really powerful insights for us on, for example, how to stand up living systematic reviews, how to develop the next generation of digital synthesis tools, and really utilise rapidly emerging technology. And so we really saw that all of this infrastructure that was being developed, all the learning and the capacity sharing, was tackling these key foundational issues in evidence synthesis, such as duplication, research waste, that actually could be shared across domains. So really, we want to use these projects as what we're calling speedboats for change, but also move towards a more collective impact approach in sharing the infrastructure that we as funders generate through field-specific investments. And secondly, I think it's also important for us to recognise what a landscape of opportunity we have at the moment. I think it's been called the opportunity, once in a generation opportunity. And I think it's exactly that. The demand for evidence-based policymaking has never been higher. And I really think we shouldn't underestimate that. The shifting political winds are deeply uncertain, and we're also dealing with a bit of an arms race with AI. And so I think the time to act is now, and hence that's why we set up ESIC. So ESIC, we really came with a mission, and the mission is to transform the evidence ecosystem with a collaborative impact approach, but also focusing on how to harness AI and new technology to tackle issues and inefficiencies that you've all been highlighting for years and years. So last September at UNGA, at the United Nations General Assembly, we announced that Wellcome would be committing £45 million for a coordinated system of investments in foundational digital infrastructure and capabilities for evidence synthesis. And we are calling this ESIC. And really through ESIC, we want to collaborate with relevant networks and communities to actually co-develop funding activities and infrastructure. So we've supported this planning process, which is rapidly ongoing, to really map out and tell us what ESIC should look like and how it should be addressing the needs of the community that we are engaging with. And I'd really like to say that we really are thankful for how well the community and you all have responded to this call for collaboration. We put forward the investment. We said, what should we be investing in? And you all showed up and you really are now asking the tricky questions of what our priorities should be and how can we actually do this in a way that achieves collective impact. So I just wanted to end on a final point about one of Wellcome's core beliefs is about being bold. It's about first moving, and we're really keen to take on risks and big bets that others aren't. So historically, we've funded the Human Genome Project, we funded the first ever vaccine for TB, and I really think we need to be adding ESIC to this list as well, because it's really the epitome of our belief of being bold. And this planning process has definitely been tricky and challenging. And so I wanted to thank you all for taking on those conversations and really responding to what we were asking you to do. And I'll finish there. And I'm just really looking forward to how conversations progress. And of course, looking forward to seeing some of you in Cape Town. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Every time you speak, I think we are reminded of this great bet in this community, right? So many people coming together and believing together in the possibility of reimagining this future is something very beautiful. And in the end of the day, I think it's the purpose that unites us all. So I understand that here we have people that maybe are participating in a first meeting, maybe have been engaged in the process longer, and I'll try and do my best to make the background as fast as possible so we can get to your questions and comments, but always trying to remind where we started and then going to where we imagine this process will lead us. So first of all, some of you might be familiar with the Show Me the Evidence future. The basis for the values and the vision that we want to create in ESIC. The Show Me the Evidence is an acronym that you can see here showcased, but most of all, we are focusing on the H. There is the harmonized efforts globally that make it easier to learn from others around the world. And this is very important because, as you know, we experience a pandemic, we experience loads of urgent topics that really, really need us to leverage technology as best as we can and not duplicate efforts. So having this idea of a harmonized global effort that then can be contextualized at the local level is something really, really important for the vision that we are trying to create. And all of these features here are critical to us. So you see that thinking about how to do this in our equitable way is very important. How we can reduce waste and the application of effort is very important. How can we really showcase what we already know and what are the gaps? All of this is guiding our work and guiding the reports and the roadmap that we are trying to deliver to help funders, but ourselves as a community to drive the best efforts into the future that really can support decision making. And then one of the things that from the get-go to this was important was strategy that is, first of all, opening up as large as possible the problems and issues and challenges that we understood this larger community is facing. So all of the working groups had a very broad exploration of different challenges, trying to understand what we already got and what we are lacking and missing, or what are the barriers for us to best leverage what we already got. And then in the second stage, try this a little bit and really understanding for these problems, what are the priorities and what do we need to solve them. And then when we get to the question of the solution or the solutions, because we are potentially imagining different solutions, considering each of the topics that the collaborative is focusing on, we then again are opening up how do we get there, what is needed for this vision, what are the multiple solutions that already exist or that we can imagine, and then finally we would go funneling again just to try and understand what would make the biggest impact, and who could help us achieve this impact, considering the different stakeholders and sectors that are included for this vision of evidence synthesis. And then, as I said, in December, we had this open call. In mid-January, we started with the working groups to try and face this huge, huge challenge in 6 months. But what is very amusing for me, at least, to see is that even though time is passing very, very quickly, I think we already have a lot of achievements as a community, and most of all, a lot of collaboration from colleagues all around the world that are sending their inputs in the consultation windows that are open. So I'm here to recap a little bit what we've done from January to April. As I mentioned, we have these 5 working groups from the get-go and 1 planning group that started in January, and they focus on first demand-side engagement, so how we engage with decision makers wherever they are. If they can be citizens, they can be policymakers, they can be professionals, and how we make sure that whatever they need is then being supplied in the end. We also have working group on data sharing and reuse. There is very focused on trying to understand how can we navigate this massive data that is already produced, how can we harmonize how data is shared, if there are any barriers or limitations considering different legislations around data sharing and reuse. Then we have this working group that is focusing on safe and responsible use of AI, because this is a topic that we already see so many initiatives exploring, but all of them in their own silos. So is there a way for us to think how to leverage AI globally and what forces we need to combine to make this happen? Then we have another group on methods and process innovations, just trying to think that the idea that we have on how to develop an evidence synthesis needs to be challenged by all of the progress in technology, the different demands, the urgencies. So this group is really focused on reviewing whatever we have of methods, thinking how could we harmonize globally some agreements, but at the same time giving space for people to contextualize locally the evidence that is available. And of course, a working group on capacity sharing and really focus on how can we make sure that across the world, doesn't matter where you're from, you are receiving the capacity needed to explore this new vision for evidence synthesis. And finally, we have since January, this first planning group. Ever since then, we have another one that I'll speak briefly about in the coming slides. That is the governance planning group. And this group is really focused on trying to imagine for whatever vision that we are developing or visions that we are developing going further, what types of governance arrangements would be needed, and how can they be very well distributed across the globe, right? So really with a focus as well of looking at the potentialities that the Global South has to meaningfully participate in all of this. And then, as I mentioned, now we activated 2 other partnership groups. There is the monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So We have a consultant that has developed a strategy to monitor this planning phase, but also is giving the basis for us to develop the theory of change and the monitoring strategy for the coming vision and whatever we are trying to achieve together. So this group has just had the first meeting, and it will refine as much as possible based on the solutions that the working groups are creating, a theory of change that can inform these future investments. And the communications and partnership, because of course we identified that being as open as possible about what is this vision, how can people benefit from this, who are key partners that need to be engaged in every context possible. So if I'm carrying out this vision here in Brazil, who should I be engaging with? How can I use this to leverage more investment also locally? And this is one of the tests that the communication and partnership group will look into. And finally, the writing group, because even though we have reports for all of the working groups coming every month, month and a half, there is one roadmap that we are working together to combine and include all the synergies of the working groups. And this is something that we now have 3 colleagues. Will Moider is here, Carrie Albright from UNICEF, and Andrea Earwood, who are penning this report, and will be doing this completely transparently and in due time, welcoming feedback also from the larger community. Then, of course, as you know, in December, we received more or less 700 people interested in being part of the working groups, but the decision around selecting colleagues to be part of this needed to consider a range of metrics that are very important to make this relevant globally, but also relevant from different sectors and perspectives. So we did adopt a focus on the Global South to prioritize colleagues whenever there was more than one recommendation for one organization or from one sector. We try to go with the Global South colleague that was nominated there. We wanted to expand everything outside of health, so we meaningfully selected people from different sectors such as climate, education, uh, just trying to have this broader vision of how evidence transforms in different sectors. We also had a huge focus on different interest holders and stakeholders. So we know there is a very big, large evidence synthesis community that is focused on developing evidence synthesis. We received a lot of interest from this community naturally, but as I mentioned in the beginning, it was very important to bring colleagues from technology, colleagues from the development banks, colleagues from different sectors that could play a part bringing this vision to fruition. So while we do have many evidence synthesis representatives there, we try to expand to other places. We also had equilibrium in terms of career stage and trying to focus in early and mid-career colleagues that in the end of the day will carry this vision forward. The gender balance was a must, and also people who were comfortable speaking in different languages, so we could have more of this representation of and communication with different colleagues. So all of the expertise, experience, perspectives are of great value. We do have 4 citizens that are also members of the working groups that are bringing this vision of citizens as decision makers as well. So while we know it's impossible to represent all visions and all experiences around the globe, we are fairly confident that the group that was elected back in December brings a little bit of seasoning from different flavors around the world. And this is just a vision of the countries that we have colleagues that are representatives in these different working groups. And I think it showcases the effort that was bringing everyone to the table. Then this is only part of the group is the secretariat members and the co-chairs of all the working and planning groups, and also the planning analysts. There are these colleagues that are information gathering. This was a meeting that we had in London, just trying to assess whether we were going in the right direction, if there is any changes, of course, that was needed to debate a little bit of this vision for the roadmap that will be the big delivery for this community in the end. And it was a very nice moment just to try and balance what we had achieved so far. And one of the suggestions from this meeting was indeed carrying out the webinars such as this one, so that the larger community was updated in the progress. And then in this meeting, Welcome also brought to the table a little bit of the expectations. So for this planning process, just trying to deliver value on time. So trying our best to learn and improve as we go. As Isabel mentioned, this is very much a process that as we are progressing, new challenges arise and we solve them as they come. But at the same time, we are learning a lot and trying to be as transparent as possible about these lessons with the larger community, but also ensuring equity in the process and the quality of outputs. So I think one of the key drivers for us in opening the consultations is really making sure that colleagues all around the world are able to bring their opinions, and in this way we can have as equitable as possible of a process. Also, we have the idea of securing buy-in to emerging ideas. So our plan, as I mentioned, is that this report informs not only Welcome as a funder, but a larger group of funders, and also hopefully a larger group of decision makers that can drive this vision to the future. Having funding, not having funding, but just understanding that this is a common goal for all of us in this community, and then contributing to this ambitious transformation that I think Isabel talked a lot in her speech, because I think the idea of business as usual, and after all of this process, if we get to the same conclusions that we already have, this would be a massive failure. So how can we be bold? How can we imagine really a future that is more actable, more ambitious, and really drives evidence synthesis to the next step? And why do we want to do this in the end of the day, if not to achieve impact on policymaking, right? So we want to see real world change from this and not be very niched, something that evidence synthesizers are doing for themselves, you know? So having this as a guidance from Welcome in the London meeting was very, very important. And I think is a message that we all should look carefully and try to understand how can we help to achieve all of these expectations, because of course it's the expectations of a funder, but I think they resonate a lot with the expectations of the larger community. And then I want to present to you just the early results and synergies that the working groups have been identifying so far. So each of the working group is now focusing on the solutions after the two reports that explore the problems and the challenges that we were facing. And then the first group, as I mentioned, they really want to explore the mechanisms to increase the uptake and use of evidence. specifically by end users. And they identify some key synergies with other working groups, right? So establishing a demand side council or a division or a secretariat that maybe could guide and help us distribute efforts going forward, providing an implementation support to evidence intermediaries, so people that make evidence synthesis get to decision makers. How can we support them to best leverage this vision? Establish evidence co-design labs, which is something that it was also very much valued in the working groups that are focusing on methods and capacity sharing, but also with our citizens colleagues, developing open question repositories and banks that the demand side and end users could populate and make sure that we know who is working on these questions and not duplicate efforts, but really collaborate, and providing grants to evidence end users. So these are some of the solutions that Working Group 1 has identified so far, and they have clear synergies with the governance, the capacity sharing groups, the AI data sharing group. So this is just to showcase how much the groups are going in the end of the day in the same direction, which we take as a huge sign of success. Then for the data sharing and reusing, the issue of interoperability and metadata and quality assurance and coordination mechanisms is really, really important. And there are some priority actions that they already identified, so such as harmonizing metadata and leverage the use of machine learning. That is, of course, very synergetic with the AI group, reducing duplication of effort via topic prioritization, as I mentioned, something that the demand side group is thinking about, ensuring data quality and trust through AI and shared methods. There is something that is convergent with the working groups of methods and capacity sharing as well, and building a coordination infrastructure. That is, of course, something that the governance group is talking about. And also, we have some cross capabilities that are needed in data and tech, in processes, and in resources, because there are capacity gaps that are cross-cutting and affect all working groups. So this is something that will be thinking very closely what are the capacities that are really key, and who needs to develop them, at what stage they are, because reports number 1 and 2 already signal to this. Then for the safe and responsible use of AI, there are many, many solutions that they are exploring, but they are really focused on validating mechanisms for AI tools. So just trying to see what already have been developed, seeing whether this can be validated for global use, developing AI-assisted workflows that could help to improve the processes that we now apply for evidence synthesis, developing common ontologies. There is something very needed also in the methods group. And of course, the topic of quality assurance. That is something that is also cross-cutting, but specifically for AI tools, there is this emerging need for us to separate what is really providing good results and what is so full of bias that maybe we are not able to profit from. Then for the methods and process, we have this idea of agile evidence synthesis, so having workflows, toolkits, pipelines, and this is something that the AI group is also thinking about. Mechanisms for data extraction efficiency. That is something that for the data use and data sharing and reuse, and the AI group is also very important. Dissemination formats co-created with the end users, so people can really get the information in the most usable way possible. Co-production of evidence with citizens, so developing training and panels, and how can technology help us to achieve this. And as I mentioned, quality assurance, that is something that applies to all groups. And then for the capacity sharing, we have some of the solutions that are focused on creating knowledge hubs and dashboards, having a living horizon systems for evidence monitoring to try to understand who is developing what, where capacity is needed, and people could collaborate, having multilingual AI-supported platforms for the Global South that could best cater for these specific needs, and having evidence embassies, so leveraging the role of intermediaries as colleagues that could build a bridge between people who are doing the evidence synthesis and exploring technology in this sense, and people who are, in the end of the day, decision making. And finally, we have the planning group on governance that right now is focused on convening standards, guidelines, and processes, trying to think of a governance that interfaces with funders, communities, and evidence producers, thinking about what would be the most responsive architecture that adapts to these new actors and funders that come to play, hopefully, because this vision also speaks to them. And of course, they depend on the definitions of the solutions that other working groups are creating. So they will only propose a model and a solution for governance once they have a clear vision of what was prioritized in the other working groups. And then we have, as I mentioned, these 4 colleagues that represent citizens and that have been doing an amazing work on citizens engagement and update. So they have a call to action that was developed based on feedbacks from all of the co-chairs. They are developing a survey for broader ESIC and participants in the webinars that will be carried out. They have civil society engagement underway, and they are targeting Global South participation. And as I mentioned, there are 3 webinars in April, May, and June. I can share afterwards the dates in the chat box, but they are open to all citizens, leaders, and NGOs that serve citizens to participate and understand, very much like what we are doing today, what is ESIC, where we are going to, what have we achieved so far, and how could people engage. And well, so this is 3 months of very, very, very intensive work. We are very happy with the participation of the broader community, but we still have 2 months to go. So what are the next steps? We are here in the double diamond approach. So we are exploring solutions. Some of them I shared with you in the previous slides. Some of them we still receive during the consultation process. And then is the matter of understanding what would make the biggest impact. So what would be really a game changer in the end of the day. And for stage number 3, we have an open consultation upcoming next week. So very, very important that you really access the website. We can put this in the chat box afterwards. All of the reports of all of the working groups are posted there. On April 30th, we'll have the open consultation for 1 week. Whatever solutions you think the groups didn't account for, or whatever suggestions on how to rephrase or how to amplify or how to reduce some of the solutions that are presented there are very, very, very welcome, because in the double diamond approach, this is the moment to open up possibilities, right? And then we will go to report number 4. So 4A will be the report with the prioritized solutions and the impact matrix that we are developing to showcase what change we imagine that solution will do to the current scenario. And report number 4B will come with some of the costing estimates, because we have 2 costing consultants also working on showcasing how much we will need to invest and what would be the value for this money. And then finally, as I mentioned, all of the reports are being combined in the ESIC roadmap. This is a process that we are doing in the open. Everyone will have the opportunity to give also their feedback, and the final consultation on the roadmap will happen between the 13th and 20th of June. And really, I think I can't emphasize how important it is to participate in these consultations. For the final roadmap, it's probably the most important moment that we have, because this is the message that as a community we want to resonate to ourselves and to funders. So please engage, have your say. This is really, really critical. And then finally, in June 24 to 26, there is this consensus meeting that will happen in Cape Town. Our colleagues from Pace and Acres very gently are organizing this meeting, and this is an invitation-only meeting to balance all of the achievements, to try and understand what were the key collaborations that came for the roadmap, and how can we drive efforts going further. We'll have the capacity to receive 220 people. Most of these people are the colleagues that were engaged throughout this semester in the working groups and the planning groups. But we identified that in this moment, it was also important to bring more colleagues. There are funders, there are policymakers, there are citizens, and some there are evidence producers. As I mentioned before, we know that the community of evidence synthesizers is huge, but we are trying our best really to bring other voices that really need to be in this space to carry this vision forward, because as you've seen with the solutions that some of the working groups are already presenting, they require collaboration and synergy with many, many different sectors, and hopefully with many, many different geographies. But this is the final shebang of the planning moment, and then hopefully by the end of this meeting, we'll have a roadmap that we are all proud and happy to uptake, and we can present this for Wellcome and other funders to lead us into the next moment of this vision. So now I'll stop sharing. We have more or less 15 minutes, and we really want to hear from you. Questions, suggestions, anything that might not be clear on what I speak with my Portuguese accent. So if I spoke too fast or you need any clarification, please, we are very, very happy to hear from you. I see some clapping, but I don't see hands up. And as our colleague John Levy says, it's amazing that I was so clear that no one has a question. So please. I see there is a question in the chat box about slides being shared. All of the slides and the recording will be updated in the website. So uploaded, sorry. So yes, this is, and then I can answer afterwards the questions in the chat box. But please, Suki, go ahead.
Thank you very much for such a interesting presentation and for like explaining how this process start. So yeah, so I understand that's like what are the like till June our planning, and then we will have a final product which is like a roadmap, and then we propose it to Wellcome Trust. So like is that we also like that mapping, and then will all these consultation and involving like so practitioner, researchers, evidence synthesis specialists, all these were like after June, how we like see involvement of all the people who were engaged into this process of making like what's the next thing, just like if anything. Yeah, obviously we will share the roadmap to Wellcome Trust and other funders who are like potential funders, but then how the next steps looks like is there anything which is like which is very constructive and very thing which has come up from all these exercise like as of now, like or like it's just like in the process of like how that looks like. I'm sure like if it's clear, but yeah.
Great, thank you. So I think this is the $45 million question, right? Because first of all, we are receiving different inputs from this community, the larger community, about how they want to be engaged, how they could collaborate, how they are probably changing the way their organization is responding to evidence synthesis based on these recommendations. So the roadmap, hopefully, makes us all reflect in our own organizations and our own work which parts of this we can uptake and raise our hand to collaborate and lead this vision forward. Um, the planning phase is ending in June, right? And then hopefully with the roadmap in hands, Wellcome and other funders will have their decision making. Each funder has a very specific geography that they can fund or type of funding that they can provide, but they will either fund the whole idea or bits and pieces of the idea and make open calls for whomever wants to propose there. So I think the immediate next step is funders, of course, creating these open calls, deciding what they can or can't fund from this idea, mobilizing other funders to engage with the solutions that maybe we couldn't fund in the beginning. But all of this should be in open calls, and everyone, wherever you are, should be able to participate. But I have an expectation, as I mentioned, that as a community, we are also able to not only, because this was such a beautiful effort in bringing people together, right? Most of us probably wouldn't be in the same screen if it weren't for this great push that Wellcome gave us to collaborate and be together. So I imagine that it would be a waste if we couldn't keep collaborating or couldn't use this roadmap to change the way we are doing things in our own organizations, or leverage this roadmap as a way to negotiate with our local decision makers. So I can imagine there are next steps that the community wants to engage in, aside from just providing a beautiful roadmap for funders. Isabel, not sure if you want to share a little bit of next steps from the Wellcome Fund, and Will as well.
Sure. Yeah, I can briefly say, I mean, broadly what Laura said is true. We don't yet know what we will spend the rest of the 45 million on. That's why we decided we wanted to set up this planning process so you all as experts could tell us what we should invest in with the rest of it. So it's really open to what these recommendations look like. It might be a series of funding calls, for which obviously it will be open to all. So you will also have chances to get involved and collaborate there. But for now, we can't say much until June.
Great, thank you. So Karen in the chat box asks, what are plans, if any, to have organizations such as producers, funders, to formally endorse any solution or recommendations? So the first portion, and I can't stress this enough, is the open consultations are the great opportunity as the reports and roadmap are being developed for people to speak up whether they disagree with some of the recommendations or solutions that are being proposed, or to better the way they are written. So first of all, I think the consultations. During the London meeting, we talk a little bit about whether, as a community, in the end, aside from the roadmap, we would like to have any type of, don't know, like open letter that people could say, I endorse this. But there is no decision made so far. Wellcome is working really, really hard in engaging different funders, and some of these colleagues already expressed their interests. And in all of the meetings that we are having, as such as this one, we are always very open to whomever wants to collaborate and whomever wants to endorse this process. really should come on board, but we still don't have a decision whether there will be some kind of open letter or the website will welcome logos of people. But so far, what we are doing really in terms of endorsement or any type of rewrite of the recommendations or reimagine of the solutions is the open consultation. So please be very mindful of the dates and share your contributions there. And all of the contributions, they are logged by our planning analysts and planning clerks. So we know people suggested this was or wasn't included for this reason. So I think this is really important. And for the final consultation on the roadmap will be a very key moment. We have some people here talking about wanting to collaborate. There is this question on if there is a listserv that we can sign up that will alert for the various calls for information or announcements. So in the website, you can add your name to a listserv, and whatever updates we have or invitations for these types of meeting will be received there. There's a request if it's possible to schedule meeting as early as possible in EST so that individuals from East Asia and Australia can still attend at a reasonable hour. So we usually have for all of these webinars at least 2 times of meetings. So we have this one happening at a time that is more feasible for some part of the world, and then we'll have another one that is being scheduled that will be like very early in Brazil, but at a more reasonable time for East Asia and Australia. If you receive one initial invitation and there isn't the second option, be sure that soon a second option will arise at the most convenient time. We completely understand that this is the difficult part of a global effort like this. Jeremy, I don't know if everyone can see the chat, but he put a very interesting comment, and I'll read out loud for anyone who can't access. Jeremy Greenshaw, who is one of the co-chairs of the governance group, just shared there are many things that we can do together to work more collectively and collaborative that do not necessarily need new funding. So this is an opportunity for the evidence synthesis ecosystem to come together and show that we want collectively to improve the use of evidence across sectors, regions, and diverse end users. And we should not just see this as a process for getting funding, rather it should be a step forward. So I couldn't agree more. I think this is our call to action as a community to really reimagine the way we got accustomed to do evidence synthesis, and just by this big push that we received to work and collaborate together, how many wonders we already achieved, right? Yes, so our colleagues also answered the request for meetings in different times and some thank yous. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? That's great. So we'll give you 4 minutes back to your time. Thank you so much for being here today. It was amazing. All of the meetings that we have people from all over the globe joining. There's great interest. As Jeremy said, I think there is loads of things that we can do together as of now. And hopefully, if you have this is the first time that you're getting in touch with the ESEC idea, please go to the website, check the reports that we already have there published. Do check our beautiful moment of consultation coming in April 30, because this report is focused on the solutions, and we really want the most equitable, feasible, engaging solutions, right? If there are solutions that no one wants to carry out, this would be such a problem. So please make your voice heard there. Hopefully we'll come back in June with even more achievements that this community was able to bring together, but all of us are very much part of this effort. And there is the mailing list there in the chat box from whoever wants to join. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Whatever you are in the world, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, night sleep, and we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you all.